Um, yeah. Otherwise, how was your weekend?
Uh, busy. I was at Hard
Mm.
Rock for about 16 hours, something like that.
Oh my God, yeah, because I mean, you actually had stuff to do on Sunday. It wasn't just
Yeah.
like sadly interview Dolphins players.
Yes, I was at Hard Rock for the Canes game Saturday. I was there till we left at like 8, which was nice, and then I want to say Sunday I was there at 11, left at like 5 maybe.
Jeez,
So I was at Hard Rock.
that is rough.
Too
But you know
long.
what isn't rough? A Canes victory. And
Yes,
welcome back to another episode of Primetime Live. Shay here with Jaden. Look at that smooth transition into things.
that was
Jaden,
nice.
how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It was a good weekend for Canes. Good weekend for my fandom. 2-7 Jets. All I'm saying, do not let the Jets win
Don't
one.
let them get hot.
If they beat the Patriots this weekend, I know you're a Patriots fan, but if the Jets beat the Patriots this weekend on Thursday, I will say some crazy things. I will be talking playoffs if we beat the
Just
Patriots.
let it get going. Let it get going. You know what? Fair enough. You need a little bit of something.
Let me have some fun here. I've
Yeah,
got back to
exactly.
back wins.
No, I get it. I get it. I get it. You
Hold
have
on
your
to
fun.
something here.
Have your fun. But also good weekend for me. Canes win. Pats win against the Bucks. Feels like it's
That's a good.
real.
That's a really
Feels like
good.
it's more than just a bad schedule. And yeah, we're doing good. But Jaden, I mean, you were there pretty much all day. I was there in the stands. Electric crowd. I went up in the big
You went up
sectional.
there?
I went up there for a little bit. It was after they stopped consistently taking it because guys were getting rowdy. And
Mhm.
they threw a football into the field. But overall, good win. Not as dominant as I'd hoped a little bit, just because early on it was a little sluggish. But Jaden, what were your kind of main takeaways from
Yeah,
Saturday?
we're. I feel like we're seeing a little bit of the same thing again. Ever since FSU, we're kind of seeing that kind of same pattern of just a really slow start on offense, and it takes so long for them to kind of get into the game on offense. And once they do, they start playing really well, but they have to like finally get back in, like get in rhythm on the offense. The game started with 8 straight punts, and I thought this
Mhm.
game was going to be one of those like it was like 7.5 again, and then Miami would blow them out, and it was some similar to that. But they took control of the game with like two and a half
Yeah, like
minutes
like
left
from
in the
that
second
few
quarter.
minute left in the second quarter mark.
Yeah, that 5 play 90-yard drive, started. I would say the everything you could say the game started with the Dalen Upshaw 41-yard catch
Yes.
and run, that screen from Beck to Upshaw. Didn't even know it was him because I thought his number was 13. And then I see him running down the sideline, right? Like that specific play, I would say kind of started the entire game for Miami. It was like, all right, yeah, I forgot. We're really, really good. We're so much better than the Syracuse team. You
Mhm.
have that. Then the next play is a Josh Moore 12-yard catch. The next play, you bring out the trickery. It's similar to the Louisville play of the flea flicker or the back to Tony to Daniels, or
Yeah.
similar to that. It was a extension of that, you could call it, where it was back to Tony back to back runs it in. It was a cool play.
Mhm.
I appreciated the creativity from Shannon Dawson this week in the second half. I thought, and the whole team in general, they really wanted to give Syracuse the business after what happened last year. It felt like that was definitely playing in their minds
100%.
to absolutely win this game. They clearly don't like Fran Brown in Syracuse, so it felt good to one win that game and also win in that kind of fashion in the second half. But I would say specifically the game opened up on that Upshaw play, leads to that touchdown. The very next drive, you get the Keontae Scott pick six, which was just a huge game changing play. And we were talking about this in the press box. I was talking about it actually in the press box, like right before the pick six. I said it's kind of weird that Miami doesn't have any defensive touchdowns this year through week 10. Not even 2 seconds later, he gets the pick six. So very, very fitting, very funny. And then it just felt like from that point on, that whole middle eight, the dominance in the middle eight, kind of led to this kind of dominant win of 38-10.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree. And I think kind of the biggest thing that we saw was much more explosive plays, quicker
Yes.
drives. Kind of the point we were going through last week was, this whole kind of a Anthony Lafayette. Oh,
Yes, I saw the tweet from the GM. I need to see. Yeah, is he the 4 star?
yeah, on 24/7 Composite, 4-star edge out of Orlando, Florida. committing to Miami. We know the way this Miami team works. Well, I guess we'll talk about that real quick. Breaking news, been on there. This Miami team loves to build in the trenches, and you consistently got to build through them to dominate the game like they want to, be physical, and especially on that edge room. You see what Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor have done.
Yeah.
Developing here. Another guy to add to that rotation when Hayden Lowe starts to get involved next year, and you see other guys just name a couple of young guys. Nice, solid addition to kind of add to that rotation of defensive ends and edge players. Just reading off the
Yeah, he was an LSU guy, decommitted yesterday from LSU.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
that was what a lot of flips Miami's getting with a lot of the coach firing. So they're doing a really, really good stuff right now, and that's another big piece. Just keep winning. Just keep winning certain guys. I mean, they've done a whole lot of recruiting over the last week or so. I know there's a lot of guys that are in circles about who they're looking at in terms of prospects. I know some people that know the names. I don't. But these guys are that Miami is really targeting some of these guys. I wish I knew these guys' names. I'm not in tune to the recruiting. When the season ends, we'll definitely be doing much more of a recruiting focus.
100%. I mean, just to kind of name another one, different than the edge room, but we've kind of heard the rumors about the Keeman Spell, the 5-star running back out of Penn State. That's gonna, that's been. I think he visited the Syracuse one of the last 2 games. I think he visited. One of the last 2 home games I think he visited for. So just another name to keep an eye on as Miami tries to flip guys from teams who have had their coaches fired in recent weeks. Just another name to keep an eye on. Like in terms of the edge room, we know where this Miami team built. Jason Taylor is a phenomenal development. Developing his edge guys, and you gotta if you're a young prospect, this is definitely a place you want to go. You go and work on the defensive line end of things, and this way this Miami team has emphasized building out through the trenches. It's a key spot and definitely something to look at as this offseason continues to move on. But back to the game, one of the key takeaways that I took from it was these quick strike drives. Some of it was doing stuff they usually do. The Dalen Upshaw play, it was an explosive play off of a screen pass, the typical wide receiver screen that he broke out for a big catch and run. So some of that stuff was just typical, but the trick plays, the score touchdowns. Look at how these drives go. Miami's touchdown drives: 5 for 90, 3 for 78. One of them was off an interception, so 4 for 5 yards. But their last touchdown drive, 5 for 51. Just stuff where it's not all these. They did have one longer drive, 9 for 83, but it's not. It doesn't have to be this long, methodical. We're gonna go 10, 9 to 12 plays, and we're gonna take 5 to 7 minutes off the clock and churn the timeout. It's moving the ball fast, getting into position, and creating explosive plays where they can happen. I mean, think about the Keelan Marion. What was that?
61-yard touchdown.
61-yard touchdown. Where more of a catch and run play, but Beck quick strike up the middle. It would have gotten a chunk. It would have been a chunk play either way, but then it just because of how the ball gets there, the safety not tracking it well, the DB's not tracking it well. Marion's able to go and catch and run, and he's off to the races with that one. So it was really nice to see Miami go more, put an emphasis more on explosives, and we saw a little bit more of the outside run. Definitely Gerard Pringle was a nice surprise during this game. Definitely stepping in as that potential third, maybe even second running back, depending on how this running back room shifts. If they ride the hot hand a little bit more, keep Marty Brown as that ground and pound guy, and then maybe Jordan Lyle takes a little bit more of a back seat. We'll see how that shifts with Fletcher out for probably another game or 2. And yeah, I mean, it was really nice to see this offense be as explosive as it was consistently throughout this game and try different things. So
yeah, it felt like I mentioned the middle eight, but it felt like during that time, from that 2.5 point mark from the Upshaw play to, I don't know, maybe 12 minutes left in the third quarter, went from 0-0 to 21-0. So from that chunk of game time alone, that has been the entirety of this game. And yeah, I think the biggest thing is Pringle. Like just from watching him, he's playing with a lot of that speed and elusiveness that we just hadn't seen that we expected from Lyle, but really hadn't seen from it. And also just in general, just like where has that been? Where's that kind of speed, that burst that we've been looking for? He kind of brought that, and he's brought that kind of all season in the spurts that he's played. He gets 7 carries today or last week, and he goes off. And his 19-yard touchdown run was great. He had a great game. I really do want more of him. I really think he could be a really key contributor as we wind down the rest of the season. I mean, he's playing better right now. I know in spurts, but he's kind of been playing better than Lyle. Lyle kind of took a backseat today or on Saturday. Marty Brown was really involved in the passing game, but that was kind of not a whole lot in the run. It was really Pringle that kind of helped our rushing attack. That was good. It was not the best it's been, but it was a good rushing attack game. And I think overall the offense just played enough where I was like, all right, they played good enough football to move forward and say, all right, let's move on to NC State. Let's get ready for it. But obviously, it doesn't come without some concerns of that opening few drives, opening 4 drives. That's what my biggest thing. Like, that opening 4 drives were it just felt so bad, so poor in terms of those drives.
Yeah, I mean, and going back to my point previously about the kind of having these long methodical drives, you got your first 3, your first 2 drives, 7 plays for 20 yards. You get nowhere with that.
Yeah.
Next one, 10 for 37, and you take 6 minutes off the clock, and you're barely able to move the football, and that's just concerning to see. Like, when you're spending all that time to move the ball and just punt it as a result. Miami went from their 2-yard line after a pretty good punt to the 39, and you don't move the ball very far, and yet you're forced to punt the ball after spending 6 minutes with possession. It's not the stuff you want to see. If you're going to have a long methodical drive, it's got to result in points and getting across the 50. I mean, Miami didn't get across the 50 until literally that touchdown drive.
Yeah,
like that until 5:20, until about 2:13 left in the half. You didn't cross the 50. I mean, well, that's when the touchdown drive ends. And yeah, I to a point, I feel love, peace, and happiness. I feel like a little bit it does feel like that. That's been the big question with Shannon in this offense, is how can you adjust and will you adjust? And I think we're seeing it more game by game, kind of slowly, rather than how you adjust quickly during the game itself. We've seen that in Miami's 2 close games where it's like, where it just, I don't know if it's necessarily you're not adjusting on the fly, or you're not making too big of an adjustment because you don't want to overreact, and so you underreact a little bit to what's going on. So like when the run game, when the pass game was going as well as it was, and then the one bobbled interception off JoJo's hands, we saw them adjust, but we saw them overreact to that adjustment by, we're not going to take deep shots anymore. And even though it was a fluke play, Beck doesn't really go down the field for those big shots as much, and kind of the same way during that Louisville game, where I think sometimes they've overreacted and overcorrected off of mistakes to go back to a little bit more of a slower style of offense.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I felt like it's weird how the scripted plays, because we've been getting beat by the scripted plays on defense sometimes, where some teams have really good opening drives against us, which is totally fine how the scripted drives work. But then, as the game goes on, our defense really locks in and plays really good football. That we saw that with Louisville, and I believe we saw that a little bit with FSU, and some of these games where we saw that. But as the season's gone on, we've seen the offense, their scripted plays have just been really poor. Like, it feels like they haven't really gotten off to a really good start to begin the game. They don't feel really confident in some of these drives. I mean, there were a couple of throws I'm watching, and like Beck was playing good. I thought he made some pretty accurate throws, some solid throws. Early on in the game, it was kind of almost a miscommunication or a lack of chemistry between him and JoJo.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple throws where Beck is looking for JoJo. He wants JoJo right away. JoJo doesn't turn his head. He's not even looking at the ball. It happened on 2 different occasions.
Yeah, there's the 1 third down on the crosser over the middle.
JoJo's not looking.
He's just not looking.
And then the second one got called for a defensive holding, but it was intercepted because if you look at it, JoJo doesn't even turn his head. So he turns his head really late and he can't find the ball. So those are things that like you're looking at as like, it's week 10, or it's, we're this far into the season. It's a little concerning that you're still kind of having some of these issues arrive or, it's like show up here and there. but overall they were able to work through it. But I feel like for the rest of the season, when you're playing, especially an NC State team that has a really good offense, we'll talk about them later. They have a very good offense, and you can't start really slow on offense again, or else it will turn into something similar to SMU, where SMU is able to stay within the game and then make adjustments or do the right thing to finish that game off. I have fears that for the rest of the season, if they don't get off to a hot start, it could really be an issue for them, because then they're down by a little too much, and then they can't will themselves back to make a comeback.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that like it feels like the default is, and that's why their opening script has kind of been, we're gonna try and move this ball slowly inside zone, run our default offense and see if we can get away with that being the opening script, rather than like let's just blow them out of the water, which has not been the mentality really all this last stretch of games, where it's like we're trying to not lose the game rather than let's go out and win this one and dominate them from start to finish. Which has kind of been the issue. And then a little bit of, we had these questions earlier on. Why isn't JoJo playing? Why isn't JoJo playing? Where I'm not going to put too much on the guy. Like, he's been injured a little bit. He hasn't had the connection with Carson consistently. So I'm not going to put too much on him, but you see a little bit of the inconsistency, which is why he's maybe kind of fallen back a little bit in this wide receiver room, behind guys like Keelan Mary and obviously CJ and Mally. Where guys, they're going to be in the right spot. They're going to catch the ball consistently. It's just, I really like what he can bring, like the athleticism, the talent. You see it. You saw it early on in that, in the SMU game, but it's just about bringing the consistency down in and down out, and knowing where you're supposed to be and catching the ball when it's thrown to you. That he's got to continue to work on in order to kind of, if CJ's out for a little bit longer, we know you can make big plays. We just got to get you in the right spot, and you got to be in the right spot to go and make those plays when they're out there for you. But once again, it just about the offense itself. You can't play like this team plays when you're behind and trying to do these ball control offense and slow methodically, because it wasn't as much of a problem this game, to be fair, but when the penalties have come in these big games, in these big close games consistently, it just sets you so far behind where, yeah, maybe we got 4 yards on first down, but we lost 5 because of a false start. And now we're, not maybe it's an incomplete on first down, and then second down you run for 4 yards because you inside zone. Now it's false start, brings you back. It's 3rd and 9. Now you're throwing to try and get the first down there. It's just not a high percentage play, and it's just problems like that where if you're trying to do these slow moving offense, just tiny mistakes like we talked about last week will just kind of kill you. And that's why early on, when the small mistakes happen, that drop on a 3rd down to JoJo's not looking, stuff like that, you can't really overcome them because you tried having this really long drive instead of going for the explosives.
Yeah, one thing I keep seeing is that, I feel like Miami's not taking total advantage of a team's weakness right away. For like SMU, where SMU's weakness was their passing defense, it felt like Miami just did not exploit a really bad passing defense. And thankfully, Syracuse is just a bad team. Just objectively right now, they're a bad team with no offense and a defense that's not, very good. And they, Miami was able to do kind of whatever they wanted in the second half. But in the first half, they were just almost like feeling things out. Like, okay, how can we do? Like, they just have to get adjusted and adapted really quickly and start kind of playing. Instead of playing, you can play to your strengths. And Miami does love to try. I think that's what they start to do every game. They're like, all right, let's play to our strengths. Let's play the trenches. Let's play the runs. Let's play the quick passes. Let's try to warm ourselves up. And then as we get later on in the game, then we might, start taking, picking apart this team. And it feels like you almost should do the opposite, where you start to exploit them, see where, really know, if you watching the film, knowing that what their weaknesses are, really doing the things that have been working, like against these really bad other teams have been doing against these defenses. And then as the season, as the game goes on, controlling with your strength, which is the trenches and the run game and stuff like that. I feel like it would work if you would have a lead and you were able to do that. And I keep thinking, because NC State reminds me very, very much to SMU, because they have a very good offense and a very bad defense. And if you don't start the game hot on offense, and NC State does, you're going to be coming from behind and you're going to have to be playing this kind of hurry up, catch up offense that they kind of was doing a little bit at SMU. They were kind of doing it. And it's like, I don't know what to really expect from that. You want to have full control of this game, and you need to kind of have that.
Mm-hmm. And like I get the way Miami wants to play. We're like, oh, we're gonna establish that we're more physical and we're tougher than you and we're gonna bully you around. But simply just through this last stretch of games, that hasn't worked to start off the game. And maybe it has some late game effects on wearing a team down physically. But when we've seen them in these close games, it doesn't matter if you're worn down physically because the other team's wearing you down physically on the opposite end. And then it's just not, in a sense, it's really just not fair to the defense when you're not able to move the ball early on, then you're forcing them to get back out there and play as well as they have played. Because in the midst of this all, I know the defense had a couple slips here and there, but I mean they've just been flat out phenomenal. I'd say honestly. I know I know it says 365 passing yards against SMU, but you look at that game and I don't think you could tell me that they played really poorly against SMU. And even they had a rough couple drives against Louisville with tackling and stuff like that. But you watch how they played after those first two drives against Louisville and it's lockdown defense. You watch how they played at the beginning of this game. I mean, just throughout this game where it's punt, pick six, forced fumble, they let up a field goal, whoop-de-doo, punt, interception, punt, turnover on downs, and then with 21 seconds left, they let up a touchdown. Like they're playing lights out, this defense. Keontae Scott, he's in the Jim Thorpe. You got Jim Thorpe. He's in the Jim Thorpe conversation. Should definitely be high up in that consideration for that award because you watch the guy play and he's just phenomenal, flying around the ball and getting to the football, making plays when there's to be a play. This defensive line getting after guys. We saw Akeem Mesidor looking healthy this week. About a sack and a half. Ruben Bain getting involved a little bit too. Like the way this defense is played, you should be putting your foot on the gas as an offense to capitalize on how this defense is playing, giving so many chances so many chances for this offense to make big plays. So, yeah.
Yeah, this defense has been flat out elite. Keontae Scott to me is playing like the best defensive player on the team right now. That's the level of the way that he's been playing in the nickel blitz, on pass coverage, zone cover, whatever he's needed, wherever he is a game-changing player. And Auburn didn't just straight up was not using him the way that he's being used right now at Miami.
Yeah, it was like yeah. No, I mean they were the book on him when he was coming here is that Auburn, he was a phenomenal slot corner when he first got to Auburn. They moved him to the outside for whatever reason. He struggled a little bit. Then he transfers, comes to Miami, finds the perfect role. And you see him, like the closing speed on him when he hits that acceleration to go after a guy, it's just you see the clips of it. It's just insane to see.
He's been nuts. I mean, that whole defensive group has been incredible. I mean, I will say this, and I know that the Syracuse team is not the team it was last year. I know it was not the team it was last year. But we put up 38 points last year against Syracuse and lost 42-38. Put up 38 today. They put up 10. It shows you how much your defense really does matter in certain, in this season, and how much better this defense is over, compared to last year's team wasn't a defense. This year's defense is really the strength, the best part of this team right now. And we're seeing that at all points. 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, 3 turnovers, including probably one of the bigger plays of the game. With 20 seconds left in the second quarter, Akeem Mesidor stripping the running back, getting that fumble recovery. Just a really good game from they got the turnovers. We mentioned the offense was explosive. The defense was as explosive because they got a touchdown. They got a ton of sacks on Ricky Collins. They just played flat out amazing. You want to knock them on anything? Wow, they allowed like 120 rushing yards or something like that. I don't know, whatever. They were dominant in the passing game against a very bad Syracuse team on offense, and they made it known that this Syracuse team sucks at offense. Like they dominated them. They did what they needed to do on defense, and they're flat out electric defense to watch. Shout out Jacoby Thomas had was it fumble recovery, a pick, big hits, was playing great ball. I mean, this whole defense is flying around everywhere right now. I think we're just seeing mass improvements on all fronts. Bain had a sack, Mesidor a sack and a half. Xavier Lucas has been everywhere. Shout out Jadaeus Richard, who came back from injury toward ACL. Justin Scott got big minutes. We saw Lightfoot and Blunt. We saw guys at all times getting in on this game. We got a lot of backups to come in. It just was an all-out amazing game from that defensive front as a whole. And if we do somehow make the playoff, that defense is going to be the anchor of this team.
Oh, 100%. And like just going back to the main point about this offense, I feel like as an offense you should try and be more aggressive because this defense can hold it down even if you make mistakes. You think about, I believe, Louisville, where off 4 interceptions, didn't allow a single point off turnovers. SMU had they scored early off of that first touchdown. I mean, off that first interception from Beck, and then it's stalwart defense. They score 13 points the rest of the game, which you'll definitely take until they get to overtime when the game was pretty much over. When they got on defense, which so what? They're punching for the ball. Like, this defense has played so well, even in their losses. I just think it's, as an offense, you can go and be more aggressive. Like, I think you have more ground to give up than they're playing as if they do. Like, this offense is playing so conservatively early on, as if they don't have a great defense. Where I would get if you're going to play, like, if it was last year, I'd get it if you were playing more conservative. Like, I get it if you want to play slow drives because you don't want that defense getting on the field and then ruining it like they did so many times last year. But this defense is elite. It's like, it clearly looks like one of the best defenses in college football right now. And with the way guys are playing, with the way this defensive line is playing, obviously there's been slip-ups here and there, but overall, like, it just looks rock solid from top to bottom. And I think as an offense, you can be so much more aggressive when you have a defense that's like that.
It's funny because that offense did not play conservative last year at all. They did against with a really bad defense. They chose not to run the ball a billion times. Even in that Syracuse game where they were up to 3 scores, 21-0, could have just ran the ball. Chose not to, cost them in the end. But like, that team was so aggressive because they had an elite quarterback, with Ward and everything that they had. But that was really because of Cam Ward. This year's team almost should do the reverse, where they should be aggressive this year and instead are acting, as you said, too conservative with such a really good defense paired with it. I think that the offense is technically really holding them back despite having so many talented weapons. They are so talented. They have so much talent. They have so many more tools and resources than really any of these teams in the ACC. They're so talented, and they just need to fully maximize some of these guys. Seeing, how Pringle barely getting that many reps this season and him looking as good as he did. Dalen Upshaw having a huge, impact at the beginning of this game. Joshua Moore coming in for a play or two. JoJo, Keelan Mary. Like, you have so many different guys. It's so deep, but you have to use and maximize that offense. And we're going to have to see how well they can do that as we, for the last 3 games, because you need to prove to the committee that you are consistent. You are a good team, that those 2 games, yes, we lost and we shot ourselves in the foot, but when we don't shoot ourselves in the foot, we are a consistently good team. That was something that Cristobal kept mentioning in the press conference. He was like, we're a damn good football team that shot ourselves in the foot a couple of times. Thank you, Falconer, for the 199.
As always, thank you.
Thank you, Falconer.
We're just shout out Falconer. Helicopters, the blades are starting to whir a little bit. You need to close out the last 3 games, but
yeah, they got. I mean, look, you got senior day coming up. This is the last game for a helicopter, but
you're right. I
need for the rest of the season to prove that they really are a very good team. The one thing the committee mentioned was their lack of consistency. They have to prove that as we near decision time. We'll see where they put us on tomorrow. I know they're going to put us at 16. I'm pretty confident in that one.
Yeah, I think we were 16 to the AP. I don't think it's going to be dramatically different, especially since you didn't get the losses from a Vandy and from, honestly, do you think Texas Tech probably would help us a little bit more just because
BYU is not going to fall? But I think BYU falls to like right above Utah because they beat Utah. I think that's where I'd put them. It's looking like we're going to see UVA and Louisville, because they both lost, drop considerably. Miami moves up those 2 spots, and now we're back to this kind of stage of who do we need to lose, who do we need to win. Yep. The 2 that I've been looking at, and I keep saying, Oklahoma versus Alabama, you need Alabama to win. Texas versus Georgia, you need Georgia to win. Those are the 2 key games. Right away, I'm looking at those 2 games. I'm saying you have to absolutely root for Georgia and Bama in those games. Vandy, another team you need to lose. Notre Dame. I want to talk about Notre Dame a little bit later on. I'm very upset with the discourse of Notre Dame over the last couple of weeks. It's starting to piss me off. I can't lie.
I mean, just get into it now. I mean, we're
All right, screw it. Let's get into it now. I'm sick and tired of the way that Notre Dame is being talked about as a really, really dominant team that is like that they've proven to the world that they are a elite team since week 2. They lost by us to 3 on week 1, and then lost by 1 to A&M, number 3 in the country. In that, since then, their best win is USC, a good team, sure, USC. Other than that, what have they proven to now be the number potentially 9 team in the country? What has been proven? What they can say, oh, their strength of record is higher than Miami. I don't care. Miami has 3 ranked wins, or 3 ranked wins if you want to include FSU. Right? What is Notre Dame has 1 currently? Like it just does not feel like there's anything to side with Notre, like this logic of Notre Dame 9 to me is just so insane. And our good friend Sebastian Font posted about it. He took to Twitter. He said it's crazy that Notre Dame is ranked as high as they are. And Notre Dame fans swarmed him in the comments. They absolutely murdered him in the comments. And their only like point of view is we're 10-0 in our last 10 or however many wins they have.
Yeah, whatever.
And you guys aren't. It was like we have a higher strength of record. Cool. You've played Purdue. You've played like you were 1-score game with Boston College and Arkansas this season. You let Boston College go 1-score game on you. Like exactly, Charles. They're getting credit. Notre Dame's biggest win is losing by 1 to Texas A&M. That doesn't make sense. There's no logic behind it. You can't. What's the point? What's the point of? So if I just schedule SEC opponents and I lose all of them, I win 1 decent game. Am I now a part of the top of the SEC? Like I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. Can you explain it for me, Shay? I don't get it.
Look, I get to a degree having them higher just because if you value the fact that Miami slipped in the recent weeks versus Notre Dame playing, just being consistent and winning these games, I get that part. But like you said, it gets to a certain point where we can't put them that high. Even I get it was the beginning of the year, CJ Carr's new and everything, but we have to at a certain point value the 10-2 Miami. Like there shouldn't be a massive gap between where Miami is and where Notre Dame is, if that's going to be the case. Because I get it, if it was week 1. I get it. We don't want to put too much stock into a week 1 matchup, but at a certain point, it has to mean a little bit. It has to mean a little bit at the end of the day. These matchups and these games, and you can't give too much credit to a team for losing these games. And where Miami's not going to get any credit for winning any of those games early on. And yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, Charles said it right there. Notre Dame's best win is USC right now, where USC is a fine team, but they're towards the back end of the top 25. And then I can go through the records of some of these teams Notre Dame has played. I mean, Purdue 2-8 currently. Sorry, I got to go through this one by one.
Arkansas, Boise State, NC State, USC, Boston College.
Arkansas is currently 2-7, and Arkansas is currently 2-7. You go to Boise State, which Boise State, they were fine last year. They're 6-3 right now, so they're okay. They're a solid enough team.
Yeah.
Which you give a little bit of credit there. NC State, fine team. Like there's fine teams in there, but there's also some bottom of the barrel teams which obviously they blew out. And so, yes, I would be fine leaving them ahead of Miami. But same like Charles there. Like these beginning of the season losses seem to not really count with the playoff committee, which I get it. You don't want to put as much stock in them because it's a brand new season, brand new roster of guys. I get you don't want to put so much stock into them, but they should matter. They should matter a little bit at least. Like Bama. Bama's at 2 losses. No, Bama's at 1.
They're 1
loss. Bama's at 1 loss. So like if they lose another game, which they very well could, it's the SEC. And yes, at the end of the day, what's mattering right now is the momentum behind these teams, which is it's an intangible factor, But you look at where teams are going, where they've been. The committee is going to put value on where teams are going. We saw it last year with Miami, where Miami was hot for the season, but you lose 2 of your last 3 or whatever it was, 2 of your last 3, and that's showing you're going in a bad direction. So what Miami did to themselves in the middle of this year was show that they're going in a bad direction right around the time when the committee was giving their rankings out. And so, though I don't necessarily agree with Notre Dame being as high, especially given their competition that they played, I understand them being higher than Miami, especially since you look at Miami's losses this year. They're 2 games where they were heavily favored and should have came in and maybe not dominated, but won handily. And they not only do that, but they lose those games, and you can't really blame anybody but yourself if you're Miami and you miss out on this year.
Look, I agree with that. I 100% agree that if Miami doesn't make the playoff, it is on them and them themselves for losing as home favorites in 2 games. They should not have lost those games. I agree with that. I agree that Notre Dame probably should be higher. But Notre Dame had that spot in, I think, just 9, where I'm projecting them to be at 9 next, on Tuesday. It just seems so crazy because it doesn't feel like they've proved really anything to anyone, because they haven't really played anyone apart from USC at home. It just doesn't feel like that has been nothing's really been proven to me. And it's not like USC is a good team within the conference. Like they're whatever. And Miami has been trending downward. Notre Dame is trending upward. I get that. But Notre Dame trending upward is games against teams that aren't in the top 10. They're not teams that have been these dominant teams this year. It's USC, it's lower level Big Ten schools, lower level like it's that. And then even in the rest of the rankings, Texas right now is ridiculously high with a loss to Florida.
That I don't understand. I can 100% get the Texas take right now, because
what is Texas proven? What they beat? They have their best win right now. Is it Vandy? Their best win is Vandy.
Which Vandy, good team.
That's their best win right now is Vanderbilt. They have losses to Florida. They have losses to Ohio State. They're about they struggled with Mississippi State. They
beat Kentucky too. Kentucky overtime game.
Massive struggle in both those games. You beat Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a good win. I'll give you Oklahoma. I'll give you Vanderbilt. But your struggles against Mississippi State and Kentucky, and a loss to Ohio State, I know the number 1 team in the country, and a loss to a Florida team that is now just bench DJ Lagway.
Mm-hmm.
It is a disgrace that they are that high. The SEC bias is there. We're seeing it. Right now, Georgia Tech's gonna be the highest ranked team in the highest ranked team for the CFP for the ACC, and they're gonna be what, 15, right?
Yeah,
that's crazy. Absolute crazy. Like it's awful.
I know. It's curious. I'm going to be curious to see what they do with Texas if they lose to Georgia this week.
It's gotta be a significant fall.
Like if they lose to Georgia, you fall to 3, and you fall to 3 losses. There's no way you should be ranked higher than Miami.
Yes. But you know what's worse is that even if they lose to Georgia, but they beat Texas A&M, they might have an outside shot looking in still. It's crazy to me that a 3-loss team can even find their way into the playoff in that kind of aspect. And then I guess for Notre Dame, it starts to bother me when they don't play conference games. They're an independent team that can play whoever the hell they want. And
they can play they can play an entire ACC schedule, but it doesn't impact them at all.
Right? We get to play NC State and we get to play Boston College. Now we got Pitt this week. And now we're just picking and choosing what games we want to play. And it's Notre Dame gets to do whatever really they want. And then they got the NBC contract, and they have it seems like, first of all, in general, for the conspiracy theorists out there, it feels like it's so easy to just pick on Notre Dame because of the NBC contract. This team literally is being backed by a company. Let's have them get into the playoff. It's just kind of crazy to me the way that it's all kind of turned out. For Miami, though, they've done it to themselves 100%. They don't make the playoffs. They've done it to themselves. I'm 100% in agreement on that part.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I'll stick by it. If you don't get in, there's nobody you can blame but yourself. But at a certain point, I do agree on some of these. I mean, we can go Notre Dame is the devil. Shout out Falconer.
I forgot to give Falconer the 305. Thank you, Falconer.
True.
The tailgating in the orange lot.
I'll go and visit the orange lot. tailgate with them. I don't know if I'll be there. I have some class stuff I need to attend to. I ranted about with Jaden earlier, but yeah, this team, like I do want to go through the little bit of the top 25 just to see like Notre Dame is at 9, which I agree is probably a little too high. They should be more like 10, 11, 12 range. Texas, I just agree, is wholly just way too high. Vandy being at 13 is fine. Georgia Tech should be probably a little bit higher. Like, how much are you going to penalize them for a single loss when outside of that game, which was close enough at the end of the day, they played a very solid all season. Agreed, Oklahoma's too high. I know they had the injuries with Mateer for a little bit that kind of stalled them a little bit, but 7-2, they haven't played their best football, and you're like, I don't know. There's just a few different teams that you can look at and point at and be like, why, Vandy. Let me take a look at Vanderbilt's schedule really fast.
Vanderbilt's tough because Mizzou. I do think Mizzou's decent. Did they just win last week?
They beat Auburn. Auburn was a game that they almost lost.
They should have lost that game.
They should have won it. I get Vandy. I'd put maybe, but they're all in the range of Miami where.
Yeah.
Vandy has one more game against Tennessee.
Yeah.
Vandy has one more game against Tennessee that they could lose, which could change things. Maybe Kentucky does something with them, but I doubt that. Auburn almost did something with them. Shout out to Cam Coleman. Look, get the boosters going because that guy's a dog. But yeah, like barely beat LSU. You beat LSU by a touchdown isn't great. Mizzou was good when they played them, so I'm not too mad about that one. Get blown out by Bama 30-14. So Vandy, well. I'm fine. I'm fine with where Vandy is. Vandy being they only have one loss. What are they? They're on one loss on the year. They have 2.
Yeah, they lost to Texas, which was
right. They lost to Texas.
It was a blowout game, and then they made it close in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they scored 21 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So like, I'm fine. I'm fine with where Vandy is. I think Vandy's at a fine spot because their only 2 losses are ranked teams. They're 13th. Like at the end of the day, Miami's 2 losses are to unranked teams, which is going to kill them a little bit more than other teams. Which
the other teams have better losses than us. It's the unfortunate. Like it sucks that you have to even talk like in that where like who's got better losses. Like Notre Dame's got great losses. Texas has Texas is an awful loss. Oklahoma's got good losses. I think Oklahoma's didn't they lose to Ole Miss and they lost to Texas?
Oklahoma's losses are to Ole Miss
and Texas.
And Texas, which
so like they have good losses. BYU's their 1 loss is to Texas Tech, and BYU is to me a really good team. Vandy's 2 losses are to to ranked team to really ranked team. So they've like when you're playing against a team that's like not ranked, you're gonna get you're gonna lose more spots because of it, and the problem is that when you're looking at the ACC isn't respected to a point where, you play SMU, you play Louisville, they're not seen as good teams. And that point only gets furthered when Louisville loses to Cal last week and SMU has lost to TCU and Baylor this season. So all that stuff gets exasperated when you see stuff like that happen. So there's nothing we can really do. The committee just doesn't see the ACC as a formidable conference. They see them as a conference that is like extremely parity based, and they just kind of eat each other up. And now there's like no really good team. Like people are starting to speculate, is there even a world where there's no ACC team? Which I don't know.
That's impossible. Just because
there's a world where that team is the 11 seed, and it's like that team gets no respect.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The ACC currently, just look at it, just doesn't. And I agree, like SMU and Louisville aren't bad teams, but in the eye of the committee and in the eye of the AP poll, I mean, let's take a look. I just want to double check just so I make sure I'm not wrong. But sorry, I want to double check this.
It feels like it's the in the eye of the committee, there's no respect or no credit being given to some of these schools, and you gotta just live with it. Unfortunately, you have to live with it. And Miami has to take their own blame because you didn't win these games. You didn't win these games. They should have won, and it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. Miami didn't win the games they needed to, and it's gonna suck that they didn't. But That just had to be the mentality going into this season, where you cannot drop these games because you're not gonna get the. I know it feels weird, but if you might be in a better spot had you have dropped one of those games
I cannot
to
believe it.
one of those games to whether it be FSU, Florida. I mean, honestly, it's an SEC team, so maybe if you dropped it to Florida, people want to be mad instead of Louisville and SMU, where
Yeah. If you lost to if you lost to UF, but you beat one of Louisville or SMU, you're at the top of the ACC,
mhm,
control your own destiny. And if you just win, you get into the playoff. And if you don't, you don't get in. It's no different than where we're at right now.
yeah,
And that sucks. That absolutely is just a terrible thought in your head where it's like we just beat our rivals. We won tough games against good opponents. And of course, the ACC games are the reason why we're not going to make it again. It's just whatever.
yeah.
Whatever.
And I mean, that was also part of the goal of the season when you know the type of roster you have is to not only be a national title contender, but it's to win the ACC, which you haven't done since you got here. And
Yeah.
so I guess it's kind of
Well,
15. Yeah, 50. I mean,
I
like,
said it
we agree. Louisville and SMU are not bad teams. They're 15, like you said, 15 and
we
5
think they're
records.
good teams. We think they're
Yeah.
good teams. And the eyes
Especially
are
you look
completely
at
different.
Louisville's. I mean, Chris Bell's a phenomenal, and I also agree Falconer ACC officiating. He's a little suspect, but um, Chris Bell, like you look at the talent of some of these teams, Chris Bell and that connection with him and Miller Moss was phenomenal, and you saw it in the Miami game. And you look at their pass defense Louisville had was one of the best in college. In SMU, Rhett Lashley, the offense that they run there has been explosive all year. Not all year, but like
Mhm.
it's been explosive since they got to the ACC. So like they're not bad teams. They're both solid teams, but the problem is they're not going to build respect like losing to any team in the top of the SEC. I can pull up
Yeah.
the standings really
But,
fast.
like, Louisville's losses are to UVA in overtime and now this one to Cal. And they're like, "Oh, it's Cal. You lost to Cal. How do you lose to Cal? Louisville sucks." And Louisville beat Miami. Like, it's just there's a lot of parity in the ACC in general. And
Mhm.
the committee, instead of seeing they see the parity in the SEC and they're like, the SEC is awesome. They see the parity in the ACC and it's like, AC is awful. And whatever, however you want to take it, I obviously think it's stupid in some ways. I think it's fun, kind of fair in other ways, but in general, you kind of have to suck it up and you have to, roll with the punches that you have. You got to win out. Unfortunately, you have to win out, and you have to now start rooting for other teams to start losing. As I said before, need Texas to lose, need Oklahoma to lose, need some other teams above you to lose if you want to get that at large spot.
And just to kind of continue our point where the SC kind of gets pushed a little further, think about right now the amount of teams they are going to have. One, two, three, four. They likely would have about 5 teams in the playoff if things stand the way they are. Where even the Big Ten would only have 3. They have the 3 obvious ones with Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon. Those teams make sense, but you're not seeing a USC get pushed
Yeah,
into those conversations. You're not seeing a Michigan get tossed in those conversations, even though they're on the lower end of like the middle to lower end of those things. Like it's a competitive conference, but they're not forcing every single half decent team into the thing because they're the Big Ten. I know they get a little bit of their own bias too occasionally, but like there's no way this Texas team should really be in consideration. I'll give Vandy. I don't even. I mean, I don't know if Vandy's fine where they are, but I know they lost to Texas. But I just think about the way this Texas team started the season, the way they've played consistently, and I don't. Even though you beat a Vanderbilt, which is a good win, like I don't know. I don't know necessarily how much I'd give that just based off of some of these very tight games they've played against bad teams. I'm just a little confused. I think every year the committee's confusing with how they rank these teams,
yeah,
and I get it, at the end of the day we're going to probably see some of it this year with how these playoffs turn out. Where if they do hold, you are going to have 5, maybe even 6 SEC teams in this playoff. When wow, because the conference was so competitive and there's so much
yeah,
talent here, where the ACC is not going to get any of that. The Big 12 is not going to get any of that. Like you're probably only get one of Texas Tech or BYU in there instead of both of them. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like Big Charles is right. Big Ten has won the last 2 natties, has the 1 and 2 teams this season, and you're gonna see you're not gonna consider that when you're looking at the rest of these teams in the Big Ten to give them maybe an extra boost, but you're gonna consider just I guess aura in a sense, and history does matter. I get it to a degree. You got to factor in history, but I like when people watch this Miami team through that first opening stretch of games. This team looks like a playoff team, and I get it. They haven't consistently played like that, but especially offensively. But that still has to matter the way they played and the wins that they have on their schedule. Where I get it, you don't want to. It's trending a certain way, and it feels rough to a certain degree. But I don't think it should matter that much to where this team ends up, where they can end up 15, 16, 17, 18 range. Where if we were the first team out, I'm going to be mad, but I'd get it to a degree.
Yeah.
But if we're on the far outskirts of any of this playoff talk, then it's going to be a little more like, do the wins matter? So
yeah, and I think the weirdest thing with Texas is like we just talked about with consistency. They said Miami's issue is consistency. I'm watching Texas play. There's no consistency. They don't even have they have no iota of consistency where you play tough with Kentucky in overtime. You play tough with Mississippi State in overtime. You beat Vanderbilt fairly convincing. And then you have all these other losses, and you're like, well, what kind of game am I getting from Texas? It feels that way a lot. Like, I don't think there were rumors if Sarkisian was going to give up the play calling duties. Like, there's not like Texas is like that. They're not proving to anyone that they're an elite team. I don't think they've proven that to anyone so far. So I think that's just the one that keeps sticking out to me. And then with Oklahoma, ever since Messier got hurt, they just haven't looked all that good. That's just with Oklahoma. Whatever, Miami has to control what they can control currently, and I think that's just the only way that we can kind of handle it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I like Texas. I think we'll probably see kind of a little come down and out of those.
When you have Georgia and A&M,
Georgia and A&M, two top 5 teams sitting ahead of them, I think there's a high likelihood that if Miami wins out, they'll be ahead of Texas by the end of the season.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh well, Texas slipped down. Let's see what SEC team we could bring up. Vandy finished the season hot.
Yeah, and they got Tennessee to end the year. And if they beat Tennessee, I think they might have a legitimate case to get in. That's fair.
Charles, there might be a little bit of a little Manning bump to this too. I'm not 100% sure, but I just joking more than anything. But I think it's more SEC bias than Manning bias. But I mean, that's a little partially why Texas was ranked one. What was it? Were they 1 or 2 coming into the season?
Were they 3? Well, no, I know they were 1. They were
1 coming to the season a little bit because you're like, Arch Manning's going to make the jump. He doesn't make the jump for most of the seasons. He played pretty poorly for most of it. And maybe that has a little bit to do with their ranked because you bought into all this hype where they thought they're going to have Miami makes the national championship. I will fly in by helicopter, Falconer. We appreciate it, and we will. I mean, hopefully, I can catch a ride in one of the seats because that mean that fly to the stadium to a helicopter.
You know, I'm still thinking about Texas was unranked at one point this year.
They were, yeah, they were unranked, but somehow
they went unranked.
They went unranked at some point this year, but that doesn't really matter because they afterwards they lost to Florida. Well, I think after they lost to Florida,
they went unranked.
Yeah, after they lost to Florida, they went unranked. They
went up all the way up to 10 in the last 5-6 weeks. Seriously?
Yep, that's what a win against Oklahoma, which I mean, Mateer threw 3 interceptions. So I mean,
look, they played a great. I mean, it was more. I thought Oklahoma lost and Texas won.
Yeah, I mean, then that big game against. Let's see what's Kentucky.
They should have lost to Mississippi State. They should have lost that game.
Yeah, I don't know how it's like I said again. They're 10 right now. I think they'll be out of the playoff by the time we end the season. It's kind of a
non-issue, like that we're thinking of. Like, and if they were to beat Georgia and A&M, they would have a resume.
Yeah, if they beat Georgia and A&M, all hats off.
Yeah, but
hats off to y'all.
I think we're just thinking about right now. But like, I'm pretty confident. Like, I trust in Georgia and Bama that they're going to take care of business.
Yeah. And in the first official CFP rankings, they came in at not a massive difference, but 11 instead of 10. where
Yeah, I think they were the last team in.
they're the last team in.
Yeah.
They were the last team in the CFP rankings, but
Now
that's
they
also
move up.
last week, so we'll see where they move them.
They're gonna move up one with the BYU loss.
Yeah, probably. There's a decent chance with that because BYU was 7 at that point in time, so
they're gonna probably
chance
fall.
that moves around a little bit there.
Yeah, and then Utah's another team. There's a lot to that we're looking at, and it's weird. It sucks that we have to go back to this. I wish we just were able to control our own destiny, and we just can't.
Yeah, you just can't right now. I mean, we'll see where things slide a little bit because obviously, Virginia lost this week. Was it Louisville? Yeah, Louisville lost this week. So we'll see where things slide around after this first poll. But just hearing some things, I think the first poll, from what I've heard, is more of we'll feel things out. We'll see where things are, and then as the weeks go on, it kind of shapes out to more of as the voters, as the committee themselves figure out what they want the criteria to be. They figure out how teams actually slide in. So we'll see if Miami takes a jump because maybe the committee valued. I mean, they see those losses, they see the way Miami played from the second quarter on or whatever. They take in the fact that this big swarm of people being like, well, Miami shouldn't be that much further down than Notre Dame, which fair enough. And maybe it comes more, both teams get a little bit closer to that middle ground right there where Miami maybe boosts up to even 14 when you think about the fact that Virginia and Louisville lost both at 2 losses now. Could see that happen where Miami gets bumped ahead of them. Maybe not Vandy. Maybe Miami bumps up to 15, Vandy at 14 just because Vandy has a little bit of SEC bias there. And Vandy has better losses. So we'll see how things shape out. But Miami could see a bit of a jump where they're closer to that. Miami Falconer, I don't know. I know we want to value it. I know we want to value week 1, but I'm not. I know I'm gonna be a little disliked for this, but I think it has. I think as much as winning the game has to matter, it also has to matter where these teams are trending at a certain point. And I don't think Notre Dame should be a lock either for the playoff, but I get them being ahead of Miami. I get them being ahead of Miami just based off of how Miami has played. The 2 of these last 4 weeks where, I mean, just even all four of the last weeks where you're sluggish to start, you come out cold, this offense isn't consistent, there's questions about the play calling and everything. And, whether it's Beck throwing 4 picks, dumb plays, missed penalty yardage, it's showing signs of being an inconsistent team. And even though I think this defense is elite, the offense hasn't played like it consistently, and you blow those games. And I think it's hard to leave you ahead of Notre Dame, who has been buttoned up for the most part since winning. And they have beat some all right teams. You think like Boise State, like I said, NC State's solid. Navy was
7-1 entering.
Navy was 7-1. Like they've beaten solid enough teams where you can, I think it's
I get it, Charles. I do agree that it should, but the way the committee's looking at it is that I know that when the records are tied, we should just look at it from who's got the tiebreaker. It absolutely should mean something, but I just don't think because Notre Dame should be maybe 2 spots higher and because they're trending upwards. But if Miami were to start getting that trend upwards where they start looking like a really dominant team, then I would hop them over Notre Dame just for the fact that Miami has a tiebreaker over them.
If Miami ends the season hot, I don't. If both teams are tied, I would give the head-to-head to mean something. But I think a little bit of it has to factor in the way Miami has played as of recently. Just a little bit. I don't think Notre Dame should be as high, as much above Miami as they are, and I think we'll see that gap kind of close if Miami ends the season strong. But yeah, here's the question: when we get down to the end of the season, if Miami and Louisville are tied, are you going to give the tiebreaker to Louisville?
You probably will.
That's the question.
You probably do.
I know we would want to give the tiebreaker to Louisville, but at the same point, it's the same kind of discussion where if Louisville doesn't make the conference championship, because it's Virginia and Georgia Tech or whatever or whoever else, and we're down that conversation of Miami or Louisville, should we just flat out give Louisville the tiebreaker over Miami because they beat them? I don't think head-to-head should always matter because it's not as simple in college football as you won this game, so you're the better team always. And Notre Dame has a little bit. I like we saw it not really matter too much in Bama, where it mattered for about a week and a half, and then Bama rolled through a solid chunk of their schedule, got hot, and even though that FSU loss at the beginning was really bad, it mattered for FSU because it put them on the map a little bit, but it didn't really matter. As Bama got rolling, it didn't really matter as much. So week one losses, I think, are less value just because they're not fully indicative of what a team is going to be down the stretch, which I think the committee is taking on just based off how it looks. The committee looks like the committee and the AP voters are taking that into account, where week one and early season losses aren't as big of a deal when a team's shaping to who they're going to be, rather than the end of the season. End of the season losses where you're seeing where teams going.
Yeah. It just sucks when when you're looking at Miami when their best wins are coming from the beginning of the season.
Yes,
game.
It sucks for Miami because their best wins are at the beginning of the season, and if they had won games, like if they had won the Louisville game, do we think Louisville would be ranked where they are right now? Probably not. Maybe a top 25 team still, but it's one of the like it would have been a strong win 100%.
I don't know, but think about this though. If Miami were to lose to Notre Dame early this year and UF this year, and they were to win out every other game, they would be 7-2 with 5-0 in conference.
If they were 7-2 if they were 7-2, then and they had won all their conference games, then they'd have a chance to make the conference championship.
But then where are we? Where is Miami ranked? I think Miami's going to be ranked higher. I think Miami.
Oh, I agree. I think Miami would be ranked higher.
Makes no sense.
I don't agree. I don't agree that losing the big games should mean more, which is why I think Miami should be higher, Notre Dame should be lower. I agree on that. But
I mean, the game should matter. The game against another opponent should matter. When people see it shouldn't be who's favored or who on a neutral site who would win this game. No, what if the two teams played on a game and we saw it on week 1 on August 31st on Labor Day weekend? What would happen? We saw it happen, which is what Falcon are saying. Because if the games that we played at the beginning of the season meant nothing, I would just schedule what Penn State did. Where Penn State scheduled FIU and New Mexico and Nevada to begin the year. Miami can just do the same thing, play all their ACC games, and move forward and be like, all right, well, we're here. It just seems like what's then the point of scheduling really hard games to prove that you're legit?
Yeah, and I agree. At the end of the season, when all things are considered and we see where this Miami team is, that should matter. If Miami and Notre Dame are tied and this Miami team ends out strong, finishes strong, totally get that. But where I think they're ranking it now is where teams are trending towards, I feel like, rather than where they are.
That is true. And the committee has said it. They made it clear. They said that if Miami and Notre Dame were in the same vein, I believe is what they said, or like something like that. If one team wasn't trending upwards, the other team wasn't trending downwards, and they're at the same record, they would give Miami the edge. They said they would factor in tiebreaker or them playing each other. But
if Miami loses out on the playoff and they end the season strong, they beat NC State, Pitt, Virginia Tech down the stretch, and they end the season strong, and both teams are 10-2, and Miami misses out on that to Notre Dame. I get that. I get being frustrated at that. I was really going to play the best game of their life and then go lose 2 weeks later. We shouldn't have lost. Yeah. I mean, agreed that too. But at the same time, if Louisville wins out, they only have one loss. They probably get in over us.
Got in anyway over Miami. Yeah, so, I mean, the other take I've been saying is that Notre Dame has to get out of independent. I can't stand them being an independent conference that basically doesn't have any factor of conference play or anything like that, and they get to just kind of do their own thing. And then for Miami, it sucks that I mean, first of all, that the way the ACC is just seen is just that's the overall thing. They're seen so poorly, and even though they have the wins, because the conference is so bad, it's like. They suck. It's like, come on. Like you're just it's a problem. It's a problem to me that if there's a world where the end of the season and they're looking at the final rankings and Miami and Notre Dame are right there, same record, and Notre Dame gets the edge because they're Notre Dame. It just thank you, Falconer, for the 305. We might see that in the next few years.
I mean, there's a chance. I do think. I mean, just based off of because I read a little bit. There are incentive bonuses on now how your team performs in terms of viewership
And
and everything like that. So I don't Miami. If you look at the numbers, Miami's been leading all those types of things. So I don't know if Miami's going to get the bump and get the revenue, the majority of the revenue from this ACC TV deal. So I don't know if they leave that based off the where it could be a little more competitive if you go to another conference, just off of viewership numbers. Because they're making enough money here in the ACC, and if you're by far the best team in the most eye-attracting one in the ACC, that TV deal is going to help you a lot more than it would if you're in a much more crowded conference. But at the end of the day, maybe they do have to leave in order to kind of fully make that jump. But I want to see them win it before you leave. I want to see you go out on top before you if you're gonna try and leave this thing. Because if you can't win here, where else are you going to win? No, I mean, I agree, Falconer. Miami is a national TV brand, so they're going to make money regardless. I just think based off of how the ACC is doing things and incentivizing TV numbers, I think Miami is going to be very happy where they are because they're going to dominate the ratings from the ACC and get the big share of it. So I don't see them leaving anytime soon necessarily. I think that's gonna take a lot to go out and go.
Yeah. Well, that was a whole long-winded. This, I mean, it had to happen. I think it just does suck when you're thinking about this, about what our path looks like. I thought our season was over last week. I can't lie to you. And now
it's like 1 week passes and they're like,
I'm all the way back in. How can we find our way back in? And I think it's more of just like seeing other teams just look at us and be like, oh, they're not good enough, or like whatever. But we got to control what we can control in terms of the rest of the season, in terms of winning NC State, Vodtech, and Pitt, which are 2 of 3 pretty solid teams. So you got to do what you can do.
Yeah. So I mean, where's Virginia Tech at? I know they fired their head coach. But
bad 3-6.
Yeah, they're
2-7 in conference, so it's bad.
They're bad, but NC State.
NC State's good.
NC State's good. I think we'll kind of hit them for like a few minutes, then we'll pop off. But NC State, they have a really, really good quarterback. CJ Bailey, future Miami transfer in the offseason. But yeah, I mean, he's just been explosive and you really see the talent. I think we talked about him in the preseason. We were ranking these quarterbacks in the ACC, and it was like it's intriguing talent going into the year. You're kind of seeing him put it together. He's 6'5", can't have an arm, can move a little bit. You get to be in the players box for NC State. Okay, Falconer. Okay. I mean, big time over here.
Yeah, big time.
Okay. But yeah, Miami. It's gonna be another game where Miami's defense kind of has to lock in, because they're going to be a tough offense to stop. You saw what they did against Georgia Tech, where they took them down. I think they scored 48 points, whatever it was.
Yeah, they have their offense is very good. It's led by Bailey. Their offense is just incredible. They're among the best in college football, averaging I think 438 yards per game, 277 passing yards a game, 160 yards rushing. It's very solid overall. They're all numbers better than Miami's offense. So they're a very good offense led by Bailey. Hollywood Smothers, who was hurt against Georgia Tech, but is probably going to be back this week. Jaden Scott took the load anyway and had 25 rushes for 196 and a tutty.
Yeah, he had a phenomenal game. So,
yeah. The other guy, I wanted to highlight this guy because I know him, Justin Jolie, the tight end. He went to my middle school, went to Iona Prep, then went from Iona Prep to UConn, did 2 years there, and is now in his second year at NC State. And he is playing very good football. He is their second leading receiver and he's a tight end, 6'3", 251, 36 catches, 365 yards, 5 tutties. He's playing very good football. I'm not rooting for him. Well, kind of rooting for him. I would like to represent the city that...
You get a couple catches.
Shout out Brewster, New York. And then their defense is bad. Their defense is really bad. It's among the SMU levels of really bad. They allow 292.4 receiving yards per game, which is
second most
to SMU, fittingly. So they have to play dominant football. They really do have to play. I've been saying this that because they only allow 132 rushing yards per game, but they really have to dominate that passing attack. The passing attack really has to show up and show out. I keep always going back to the way that they played against against FSU, where where the run game was kind of taken away, but they threw the ball, they threw the hell out of the football. I want to see that kind of offense, that kind of explosiveness that we even saw, against Syracuse last week. So let's try to see that kind of offensive game plan. I would like to see Shannon Dawson scheme up this team. That's the way I keep looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think the way, like, getting back to that game against Florida State, where early on you put your foot on the gas, you saw the run wasn't working, and you just went for it. Went out to go and show this team that you are better than them is the way this Miami team is to play. And especially since this pass defense has struggled as much as they have. I know the run defense also has, but I just think you got to go out there and air this ball out and just go for it early. Just go out there and get this win early on. Like, I think I trust this defense enough to slow down this NC State offense enough where they might put up some points right there, but between the defensive line getting after him, the secondary playing as well as they are, I think this defense can do enough to slow down CJ Bailey in this NC State offense. Miami's offense though just needs to go out there and just put their pedal to the metal early on and often, and just go out there and whether it's air the ball out, do some trick plays, whatever it be, throw it all out there. Because I don't want to see another game where we play this. Yeah, maybe survive in advance, Charles. Like, maybe a little bit of that, which maybe it comes down to a close game because we trade blows back and forth, and it's gonna be competitive. I get that, but what I think this Miami team needs to do more is to show the committee that they are a lot better than some of these teams, and the only way to do that is if you blow teams out. So as much as survive in advance is important, like, you can't lose this one. Obviously, you got to do more than just survive. You got to thrive and dominate the opponent.
You got to start winning convincingly at this stage in the season, especially when you're on the outside looking in and you're kind of looking for ways to find your way in. These are the ways. So find any way possible to get in. I mean, I was thinking about it I would look if we can get CC the football again, kind of football game.
You looked a little explosive out there. You looked a little. He was running real funny. He was running real funny with the ball.
Did you see his quote after the game?
No, I missed it.
He said that he was mad because he didn't get to run anyone over. Very super funny guy. He was very funny. He said he was genuinely upset. He was genuinely upset that he couldn't run anyone over on that touchdown.
Look, man, I'd be mad too. There's nobody in front of him. The line. They were so caught off guard. I was watching this one Instagram reel where it's one of these guys like, Cannon Proctor, you got 24 hours to respond. It's all fairness. Hey, maybe Detroit pulls something out there too. I mean, the Lions love throwing to Penei Sewell.
Little Penei Sewell action.
Penei Sewell action over there. So offensive lineman somewhere, y'all got to respond because CC showing off. Maybe Markel Bell gets the next one. Imagine Markel Bell's big. Oh my God, that's scary to think about.
There he is. That would be sick. But I'll say in terms of the way to win this game, the offense has to start fast. You cannot start from behind against a really good offense that they have. You got to start fast. You got to start quick. You got to change the narrative that we've seen the last couple of weeks of really slow football between Louisville, SMU, and at Syracuse, where you started the game slow. Have to start the game faster, or start the offense has to look more explosive early on and start the game early. So other than that, I would say, I need Beck obviously has to have a really good game. Like, he has to play his best brand of football that we haven't, I thought he played well against Syracuse.
Yeah, and I will say that was a phenomenal throw to Keelan Marion during that game.
Oh yeah, really good.
That was probably one of his best throws of the year, in all honesty, because that is like a half second late, a half second slower ball, and that's maybe deflected, picked off, something like that. But he threaded the needle perfectly in there, for Marion.
Yeah. The other thing I thought, and I didn't mention this, but they did a really good job finally limiting the penalties. Chris Paul mentioned it in the post-game.
I mentioned a little bit, but yeah.
Only had 5 penalties, and I only think they had 1, maybe no false start offside penalties. So that's a huge success. That's a really big positive. I believe their penalties were kind of very minor. It didn't meant nothing to the game. Procedural penalties weren't really there. They did a really good job cleaning that up. Need to continue on that trend, play that kind of brand of football. You have to kind of stick to that brand of not, doing that to not shooting yourselves in the foot. And they didn't do that at all against Syracuse, and that has to continue for NC State. Just playing your brand of football that isn't, these racking up penalties. It isn't throwing dumb throwing dumb turnovers or running through the A gap. It's playing that, kind of Miami swagger of explosive offense, explosive, high flying defense, swarming, that kind of play. If we can see that against an NC State team that is very talented on both sides of the ball, or really on the offensive side of the ball, we can really take control of this game.
Yep, and I just double checked it. 0 false starts.
0 false starts.
0 false starts, which is a surprise to see.
0 snap infractions from Blockermeyer.
So yeah, exactly. Good way for that game to go, and you want to see that continue. We were having the criticism earlier where the other week where it was like, we hear this a bunch, but can we actually see in a game where the penalties, where you slow down the penalties, they don't happen as often, and you in game you practically you preach. You've been practicing. You've been saying all this time, we're going to work on penalties. We're going to get better. We're going to be more disciplined. And we haven't seen any of these crucial spots. You saw it last week in Syracuse. Hopefully we can see it again against NC State, because like you said, if you try and play this slow, methodical offense and you're going to be penalized as much as Miami is, it's just going to result in more problems. It's going to result in you starting out slow, not getting behind early, and then not being able to keep up in case your defense has a slip up this week. So
yeah.
Score prediction, Jaden? Score prediction?
Ooh, I will go. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I unfortunately think it's going to be another neck-and-neck one. Give me – you know what? No, I think Miami pulls out towards the end. I'll go 34-24, 34-31. I think they pull out in the end, 34-31. What about you?
I'll go similar. I think I'll go 31-20.
That's fair. I think 45-17 Falconer.
40.
A little much for that. I don't know the last time we've scored 45.
No, Syracuse scored 42, right?
We put up 38 against Syracuse.
Not Syracuse, I meant Stanford.
Stanford was 41, I believe.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I don't know about 45. I like the idea. I love 45.
I'd love 45. I just don't think I love Miami's defense, but 17 with the way this NC State offense is playing. Like, I think they get at least to somewhere in the 20s. I don't know if they get to 30 because nobody scored 30 on Miami yet. So
that's a good, that's a fair point. I mean, the most we've given up is 26 from
26 SMU. against the SMU.
Yeah, so not. I mean, again, this defense has been very good, and if we can continue to harp on that, continue to focus on that, and the offense just does their job, which is again what we kind of were talking about back in August, where if the offense just does what they need to do, everything should start working out, but they haven't been able to. So let's just play your brand of Miami football. Let's win some games and try to get the hope back up that maybe we can sneak into a playoff game. And if not, we'll go back to the Pop-Tart Bowl.
No, not Pinstripe Bowl. Jaden, if we're gonna make a bowl, let it be the Pinstripe Bowl so we can go both see it. Okay.
All right. Let's get the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah. Okay. Finish out strong, and if not the playoff, the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yes.
But that is all for today. Thank you all for coming. Jaden here with Shay again. Charles, I like your prediction, 34-24. I'm down for that too. And I mean, Jaden, I assume you'll see people Thursday, I believe, correct?
Yes, we will. Call in show on Thursday. Whatever you guys got to say, please come. Please come. Give me your takes, give me your thoughts. We had a long discussion on the Notre Dame stuff, and I want to hear what you guys got to say, because on Twitter, at least, people have been going at it with each other. So
yeah, I mean, I get it. It's going to be heavily debated until the season winds down, and like I said, just to put a bow on it, I think where these teams are will be much different with the committee than where it ends if Miami ends out strong. We talked about a little bit. So what they have to do, though, is end out strong. But that'll do it all for us today. Hope you all have a great night, and see ya.
See you.